remember the carefree days of Eagles football during the daytime, but I guess those days are over because here we are again back in the middle of the night to talking more Eagles football. Monday Night Football this time down in muggy Tampa. 25-11. Eagles are now 3-0 on the season. And, of course, before I get into this, let's introduce the panel. I'm familiar with these gentlemen. The last time I hosted this show, it was actually the last time we did the post game was you guys. Over there on my left is Mr. Pat from Ambler, the Gobbler. Pat, how you doing tonight? 25-11 in steamy Tampa. Without getting too deep right now, Pat, what is your initial impressions of that 3-0 start, and specifically tonight?
Tonight, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a phony 2-0 team, and the Eagles exploded all that.
Yeah, they're a 2-1 team now. So down there below me, Austin joins me again. Austin, I guess same question. What is your initial impressions of the 3-0 start, and specifically tonight?
The play calling's getting better. I'm just gonna say that much.
Okay, that's right down and dirty. All right, I got that, gentlemen. 25-11. The Eagles tonight. And I think the theme going into this game was, okay, we got 11 days off from the last game. We have an opportunity now to kind of hit the restart button. We kind of got off to a limpy 2-0 start, and now we have the resurgent Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who actually are a sneaky good team, not quite as good as the Eagles proved that tonight. But trap game maybe not, but some concerns were definitely there. I'm going to talk about one of my keys to Eagle victory tonight when I did the pregame show earlier, and I'll go right to the number one key was Jalen Hurts. I wanted to see more of the 2022 Jalen Hurts than the 2021. Tonight, 23 for 37, 277 yards, a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. He was sacked once for 6 yards. Austin, down to you. Is this the Jalen Hurts that we've been waiting to see, or is there still a work in progress here?
I feel like it's still a work in progress. Definitely in terms of his running game, not as good as we've seen. Definitely had a couple of passes that I felt like he definitely would want back. But overall, it was still a solid game from Jalen Hurts. He was, reading the defense very well. Even though 23 of 37 isn't incredible, it's still solid passing efficiency. Got a great amount of yards. Some solid reads especially in the early go of the game, finding AJ Brown on those 2 big gains to start off. The progression is there for the season, and I feel like he's making the proper strides to get through the season and not essentially blow himself out before the real long haul gets going.
Yeah, and I definitely saw a little bit more improvement. I think his throws were a little bit more on time. I know that sounds maybe a little alien or foreign, but I thought the first 2 weeks the ball's kind of hung up there a little bit. We'll talk about that nice little touchdown pass he threw there that looked like it was going to get picked. I mean, I thought he got air under that thing, but it found its way home to the Eagles' new number 1 wide receiver, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But my other key to victory there, Pat, was the Eagles, when they touched the ball for the first time tonight, to go down there and score a touchdown. We didn't get that. Matter of fact, we got a lot of kind of what we've been seeing for the first 2 weeks, and that's the offense driving the length of the field and then getting bogged down inside of that damn red zone. And it was a problem pretty much all night. This night was definitely a night of points left out on the field. The Eagles probably made it more of a game than it should have been. Again, play calling comes into play. There was a controversial, well, not a controversial, but a 4th and 2 play that Sirianni decided to, run up the middle, whatever, but down there in the 20-yard line, Pat. So, Pat, what is your impression? Again, is this offense still kind of stuck in neutral, or is it still finding its way, or what are we here?
Well, first of all, to piggyback everything you guys are saying, yeah, the Eagles, the first drives were to AJ Brown. I guess whatever AJ Brown had a conversation with last week, the point got across. So again, talk about cross, right? You see AJ Brown going the crossing route, catches the ball over the middle. Again, the Buccaneers were leaving their middle. The secondary was leaving that middle wide open all day long. The Eagles took advantage of that. So to answer your question, though, Eagles were in the red zone the first half 5 times. They only got 1 touchdown out of the deal, and that one looked like it was just it was a gamble because Jalen Hurts just threw it up there through a tight window in double coverage, and he got drilled for it. And luckily, just through the hands, one of them to the new receiver, right? He turns into a TD. But yeah, 2 trips into the red, after that, or no, the one prior to that was, the field goal. The one after that in their first drive, they couldn't convert. They wound up turning the ball over, and then Jalen Hurts throwing the pick. So yeah, major concerns in the first half, but the second half, the Eagles turned things around and were money. And again, the play calling looked to me a little vanilla, but effective. Again, finding guys open, getting Dallas Goedert open a few times. AJ Brown, like I said, was effective throughout the game. And what did it for the Eagles was the gut punching up the middle with the running back with DeAndre Swift. Just eating that defense alive, pick them apart. They just couldn't stop that man.
They could not. DeAndre Swift on the night, 16 carries, 130 yards, 8 per carry, and had a long of 29. It was a nifty little 29-yard run that included a hurdle. So that was a pretty fun thing to see. You mentioned the new wide receiver, Omadid Zacharias, 2 receptions, 58 yards, 29 yards per reception, 34 yards was his longest, and he was targeted 3 times with the 1 touchdown. AJ Brown on the night, 9 receptions, 131 yards, targeted 14 times, longest of 28. Devontae Smith, only 4 receptions tonight, Austin, 28 yards, 7 average. His longest was 15. He's only targeted 5 times. Austin, there's a theme going around that maybe the A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts blowout on the sidelines last week may affect the other wide receivers on this team negatively, with maybe Jalen Hurts trying to force feed A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith kind of a silent night tonight. Do you attribute that to that, or just maybe he wasn't in the game plan?
It's very possible that it just wasn't. He wasn't getting good looks to Smith at all throughout the night. You could see a couple of times that right off the snap, the first look was Devontae, but the coverage didn't look right or something, so he shifted off to somebody else. Even the touchdown pass to Zacchaeus, he's looking to the left where both Smith and Brown both are. He's looking for one of those guys on the initial read, and then he sees Zacchaeus coming off from that crossing route across the middle, sees the safety sort of sitting down on his toes a little bit, wanting to come forward, and manages to get a decent enough pass in there for only Zacchaeus to reach, which that could have gone so much worse. I'm so glad that it didn't. And aside from that, I mean, the pass game was pretty, I guess you could say it was pretty level across the board in terms of like everyone getting a pretty fair share. I mean, Goddard got a few decent looks. Even Stoll had a couple of targets throughout this game. So I mean, I feel like the ball is trying to be spread around. It's just a lot of defenses are starting to drop some more blanket zone coverage to be able to prevent any of these guys from really being able to go off like they did last year.
Yeah, that's my fear. Is obviously a lot of defensive coordinators and head coaches spent time this summer looking at Jalen Hurts tape and Eagle offense tapes to kind of shut them down, which it should be expected. When you're now the hunted, no longer the hunter. For the first half, the Eagles did finish with 13 points, 13-3 halftime lead. We're going to transition here to the defense real quick, but I'm going to go back to what Edge of Philly Sports is saying here about Eagles should have had at least 14 more points, if not more. Gentlemen, I agree with Edge of Philly Sports with that statement, and I'm concerned that the deeper we get into this, and I don't, no disrespect to the Buccaneers or the Vikings or even next week's opponents, the Commanders, but that check's going to come due when we're starting to see the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs of the world show up at our doorstep. We can't leave points on the field against teams like that, and these little gaffes in the offense need to be cleaned up by the time we get that deep into the schedule. And gentlemen, were you frustrated? I'll go to Pat. Were you frustrated about the lack of just kind of punching that thing you mentioned, the red zone ineffectiveness? How frustrated were you, Pat?
Matt, you and I are from the same neighborhood. Like, I'm just as frustrated as you. I mean, the not punching in the red zone again. You just mentioned it. These are the considered the day at the office kind of teams, right? You faced New England. You faced the Minnesota Vikings on the short week. You faced a Buccaneers team. Granted, they are defensive minds and they know how to shut down. They've done plenty of tape on Jalen Hurts. But, again, you have to punch us in. And like Edge of Philly Sports said, you left 14 or more points hanging and bouncing. You let slip away, and you have to capitalize on it. You and I have talked many times on the Phillies postgame show. Leave guys in scoring position. This was the same effect. You cannot leave this let this slip away. You have to capitalize on that. And you go back to the um, you go back to the second half. What did they do? And what did they get back to? Running Swift up the gut. They kind of abandoned, Swift for a while. Again, you see Kenny Gainwell getting some of the touches and was not effective. He was only effective when Swift was he was pounding the rock. He was pounding it, and he was better efficient with the O line. He was finding the holes to run. He was doing all that. Again, and again, I have to give Jalen Hurts credit tonight. You talked about looking for that 2022, Jalen Hurts that we've been looking for. I mean, again, the play calling was vanilla, but he made the best of things. He was finding guys open. He was finding guys over the middle. He was pounding the rock. He was, being a workhorse. I think he's a little precautious though, looking down stretch because he's going to be due for a payday, and this is where Eagles got to decide whether they want to keep him or remove him. So that's a conversation for later.
So for the game, the Eagles did finish with 27 first downs to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 12. They held the football, which was again they once again won the battle of possession, which has been a theme all season as well. 38 minutes or almost 39 minutes, 38-55 to 21-05. Eagles did turn the ball over twice. Very uncharacteristic. Jalen Hurts with the 2 interceptions. But again, he did enough, and I think the rain might have affected some of the game plan heading into the second half. So I think that might have also been the reason why they kind of transitioned to more of a run. But DeAndre Swift was definitely the workhorse yet again. We'll get into DeAndre here in a second, but I want to just transition now to the defensive side of things. Baker Mayfield came into this game kind of riding the new lease on life, but the Eagles really much kind of shook them up a little bit into this game and brought them back down to reality. Austin, defensive game plan. It seemed like they were again. This is one of my keys to Eagle victory was to kind of pressure him, keep him off balance, not let Baker Mayfield try to kind of exploit the Eagle secondary, which might be our weakest part of our defense. And I think the Eagles did a pretty good job of that tonight.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like my player of the game for the defense was honestly Reed Blankenship. That the interception that he got was in a key point in the game where the Eagles had the opportunity to really extend the lead. 6 tackles and an assist to go along with it. Getting him back in the defensive lineup definitely helps out with strengthening that secondary. I mean, Josh Jobe had a decent game. I mean, he gets called for the 1 pass interference that I felt was kind of iffy. He may have held on for just a bit longer than you should have, but that allowed the front 7 to really play a little bit. I guess you could say a little bit more freely with not having to sort of overcompensate for the secondary not being as strong. You had a really good performance from everybody up front. You had the half sack from Jalen Carter, which was good to see. Tui Pulotu getting another sack. Even though throw that interception, but you pin them down at the 1 yard line, and then you just let everyone just break that Tampa Bay offensive line and get that safety. There was a lot of really key moments that the Eagles defense really did step up to the plate for in this game. And I really don't want that to be sort of underlooked, honestly.
No, it shouldn't be, because if you really look at this and we look at it holistically for the first 3 games, at least, if it hadn't been for the Eagle defense, and I can't believe I'm saying this because obviously I think I know I did, but I'm sure a lot of Eagle fans thought the same way heading into this season. The defense wasn't necessarily going to be the strength of this team. It was going to be the offense, and that the offense would have to carry the defense. But it has not been that way for the first 3 weeks of the year. The defense has definitely carried the offense. You mentioned some of the key plays tonight. Reed Blankenship, the safety. Hell, we can even talk special teams. I don't know. Kobe figured out how to return punts, but he figured that out tonight. But the defense has definitely picked it up, and it's shocking to me. To be honest with you, I didn't think they had the personnel, especially in that secondary. But no, you're absolutely right, Austin, and it's a wonderful thing to see. But it is a trend that the Eagles need to reverse. As I mentioned, getting deeper into the season, you're not going to have the luxury of dealing with some of these type of quarterbacks. And Baker Mayfield on the day, Yeoman's effort, 15 for 25, 146 yards. They had a touchdown and interception. Rashid White was the leading rusher for the Buccaneers tonight. 14 carries on 38 yards and a longest of 12. Sorry, Freddie Burns. We played each other in fantasy football this week, and I don't know what the hell Rashid White is doing as your number 2 running back. And I'm sorry, man, but I beat Freddie by over 100 points. I've never beaten anybody this bad in fantasy football before in my life. then I beat Freddie Burns this week. So, Freddie, I'm sorry. I'm sure we'll see each other again throughout the season. But boy, anyway, Mike Evans, 5 receptions, 60 yards, 12 average, a touchdown, 24. I guess the Justin Jefferson of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not look so didn't look a little bit out of sorts. Pat, he had a few passes dropped, passes that he normally catches. Baker Mayfield that's his number one guy. Pat, how did you like the job that the Eagles secondary did on Evans specifically?
Well, you talked about the weather being an X factor. If anyone got affected here, it affected Mike Evans because, like you said, there was a couple of balls that were in his hands and he dropped and couldn't catch. So yeah, that falls on Mike Evans. Now, to me, uh, he couldn't get the plays that he wanted. Again, the defense was tight on him. But what really stood out to me about this whole defense, like you guys said, or you talking about the slogan being for the Eagles, the hungry dogs are going to eat. Well, you get your hungry Georgia Bulldogs, and they're going to make things happen between Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis just being wreaking havoc in the trenches and getting in collapsing that pockets and breaking Baker Mayfield really was the tone of the game. As much as love we're going to give the offense, like you said, Matty B, well, we all came into the season thinking the defense was going to be the be the weakest link. It hasn't been. It's actually stepped up, and believe it or not, with the Eagles taking their time, taking the ball, slowly going down the field with it offensively, gave that defense where they're not fatigued. You saw in the second half that this Eagles defense didn't get fatigued until about the fourth quarter when they were running the 4-3 defense, and they were just running the same old play. By that time was pretty much already garbage time. The Eagles had this game already wrapped up. So I definitely liked what I saw. Like you said, the Reed Blankenship interception, the collapse of safety. The Eagles defense has really stepped up.
It has, and no one else has really stepped up, and that's, of course, us here over at EOP. Let's talk a little bit about if you have yourself some workman's compensation issues, some motor vehicle accident concerns, personal injury, or criminal law. Dave Cherry at 610-565-0300 is the man you got to give a call to. And once you're done calling him, go ahead over to the Sherry Ticket Town and get yourself some tickets to celebrate whatever some great advice he must have given you. Great prices, no hidden fees for sports, concerts, and theater. www.sherrystickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. Gentlemen, let's run some. We got a bunch of comments that we want to get to here, and let's run some of them real quick. Our boy Daniel says Eagles going undefeated this year. Austin, I don't think that's going to happen in any universe, honestly. But it might. What do you think? Is there a chance there? Do you think the Eagles run the table and go 17-0?
I honestly don't think so. When you look at the, just like you had said earlier, looking at having to face the Chiefs and the Dolphins put up 70 points yesterday.
70, bro.
And I mean, granted, they didn't really play one of the best teams, so I feel like it wouldn't be as big a gap. But them in Kansas City alone, I don't think that they beat both of those teams.
No, and Christopher Moore says though first place NFC East, that's definitely more doable. I'm picking the Eagles to do that this year, and then they will go. So he's still on the undefeated season. Quentin Moore, Quentin, thanks for joining us. Always great to see and hear from you. The interception of the goal line was a great play by the defense. I concur. My candidate for defensive play of the year at the very early part of the season, Austin. What was your feelings about that play?
Oh, that was exactly what you wanted to see the defense do in that position. You overload the box, you just break that offensive line down, and hopefully meet him before he gets there. And that's exactly what happened. You just let those big guys up front do the work, and it just became an absolute disaster for Tampa Bay at that point in the game.
Yeah, man. Edge of Philly Sports says AJ Brown had 2 catchable touchdowns. He did, I guess we can kind of talk a little bit about AJ Brown. It looked like he was a man on a mission tonight, or at least early in the game. They were targeting him left to right, and he made some nice plays. I mentioned this at the top of the show. The last thing I think any of us want to see is AJ Brown become a distraction. Now, Austin, do you think that's a possibility as the season wears on?
I don't think he'll be a distraction throughout the course of the season. I mean, he is a top tier receiver. He's going to want to get his targets, but at the same time, he understands, sometimes the game plan isn't looking that way because of how the defense is playing against you. So he's one of those guys. He adapts very well. He's definitely a team first kind of guy. And right now, just let the team be able to do what they have to do to secure wins and just keep moving forward in the season.
Yeah, and Joey Sheeran chimes in. It's week 3. Swift at 130. Got to keep him healthy. Gainwell can get touches. It's going to happen. That's interesting that Joey brings that up. And Swift has been obviously the feature back since week 2, and he has been carrying a lot of the load. And he is, I guess, there is a concern here as we move through the season. But to Joey Sheeran's point, do you trust anybody else in this backfield to carry the ball like DeAndre? Can anybody you think produce like that? I don't see Kenny Gainwell producing like that, and I don't know about Rashad Penny. Obviously, Boston Scott's out. I'll go to Galbert. It's a good point that Joey makes. Only week 3, but who else do you trust back there, Pat?
That just summed it up. I mean, because that tells me the Eagles don't trust anybody. They don't trust going anyone else with the rock. Again, they try to get Kenny Gainwell going. Nothing. Boston Scott is hurt, but I don't know how much of an effect that he would have had in this game. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of this. It's scary that you have to rely on one running back, and you've seen it. So at some point, like you said, some defensive mind is going to pick up on what they're going to try and do. If they can somehow find a way to shut down DeAndre Swift, somehow to get to him, then the Eagles go back. What I saw tonight, and it was empty back set, and the Eagles were just running all the wideouts downfield. So someone's going to eventually catch on to that, and you can only hope that this offense, and praise the offensive line being this healthy and being this strong for so many years, and it's actually a luxury for DeAndre Swift and reaping the benefits from it. But to answer your question, it's scary the fact that they have nobody back there other than DeAndre Swift making the best of everything.
I mean, the Eagles have always relied on that running back by committee. I mean, hell, all the way back through Andy Reid's time here. But, LaShawn McCoy was the featured guy for years. It worked out pretty well. He stayed relatively healthy. I'm not saying that it's going to work out the same way, and I'm not comparing LaShawn McCoy and DeAndre Swift, but I think it's a good problem to have, honestly. It's not necessarily a bad thing to have a running back like him, but it is a concern to try to keep him healthy. As Walter here says, they put Gainwell and he wasn't as effective, but the game was secured and no reason to get Swift hurt. Obviously, when you're in the net mode of the game, you're going to pull people out. I don't know. What do you think, Austin? Is it a problem that the Eagles may not have another running back option at this point, or is it just a wait and see type situation?
I mean, Austin, are you sleeping?
No, my thing froze up for a quick second. I don't really think only having DeAndre right now is a problem, because you at least are going to get 3 solid downs out of him before you need to maybe spell him out for somebody else. And by that time, if you've ran 2 of those 3 plays, they may expect to run again, so you just pass, so you don't really need to worry about it. Swift's strong suit isn't his blocking. He's a great pass catcher, a great ball security guy, runs very, very, very quickly. And you don't really need him to block. So that's where you get, you let like your Pennies, your Gainwells, God forbid, maybe even your Boston Scotts to maybe throw a chip block and then go out on a quick little route or something, or stay home and give an extra protection for Jalen. So I mean, right now I'm totally fine, because I had said last week, I said the way he played against Minnesota would probably give DeAndre Swift the feature back role in this game, and that's exactly what you got. You got a guy who was incredibly effective at finding open lanes in the offensive line that did incredible work throughout the entire game. And just the way they were able to produce those running lanes for DeAndre Swift when it mattered most, and he was able to just burst through. There were plenty of times you were seeing a couple of our offensive linemen getting up into the second level up there with the safeties and the corners and stuff, and securing key blocks especially for DeAndre's the one where he. Who was that? He hurdled completely over Winfield. There was an offensive lineman or 2 up there with him at that point. So I mean, I like what we're seeing from DeAndre Swift so far, and just keep if the run game is going to be what gets you through a lot of these games this season, I'm fine with it, because Philadelphia for a good while was known as a very strong running offense team. So to be able to see that come back to life again, and just see us be able to cram the ball down a team's throat, and there's nothing they can really do to stop us, and they can barely even contain us at the same time. It's going to be a very, very fun season going forward if this is the way the team's going to play. Because I'm a big fan of winning games in the trenches, and winning games in the trenches means your running game is going to be that much more exceptional. So you're going to control a lot of clock. Like we look at the game last week, we owned in time of possession, and Swift had 170. We owned in time of possession this time around too, and Swift had $130. So I mean, I'm totally fine with the way the running game is working, especially because of the fact that the offensive line is consistently winning when it matters. And I'm again, like I said last week, I'm totally fine with the running game being the dominant piece of this offense if it needs to be right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I remember when the trade happened last, what was it, day 2, 3 of the draft when they traded it, they made the deal. And I remember thinking that is Miles Sanders, right? That's the replacement for Miles Sanders, and that's the featured guy. But I was amazed that not a lot of people kind of went that way. More people were like, well, it's the running back by committee. He's going to fit in nice with a nice rotation with Boston Scott and Rashad Penny. I didn't see that. I saw him as a replacement for Miles Sanders. That was the guy who was going to take the bulk of the carries. And as you said, for the first 2 weeks, I don't know what the hell happened in week 1. I don't know why he only got 1 touch, but for the first 2 weeks, obviously that's what's been going on. Michael chimes in by saying the Eagles passing offense still not there yet. We agree, but the running game is the identity of this team, and Swift should be the lead back in the rotation. I think we echo your sentiments, Michael. One last comment about the play, my play of the game. I want to get your take on this play of the game. The tush push fake rollout fall down by Jalen Hurts down the goal line. Pat Mambler, what was your take on that?
The tush push, it never fails. It never fails. I mean, the tush push will get you in every step.
Yeah, but this was the one where he faked it and he rolled out like he was going to run, and then he slipped and fell. I mean, was that like some trickery? What'd you like? Did you like that little wrinkle to the tush push there, Pat?
I like a good wrinkle to the tush push. I enjoy it. I mean, he, again, I don't think this happened on purpose, but it happened and it was effective. So yeah, I'll take it. I'll take any kind of points you can get on the board. And if I can also like to add to your guys' point about the running game and about DeAndre Swift being that feature back. And I think we are just talking about not having trust in the other guys. I think now they're going to start seeing more that 3rd and 1 and pushing Jalen Hurts. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to get back to at some point using his legs as a weapon. So maybe that's why they're not that concerned about the running game. Maybe because they feel if DeAndre Swift can't punch in the middle, we know Jalen Hurts can.
But that concerns me. I do not want to see him being part of the running attack of this team. I have visions of Soldier Field in mid-December with him coming off the field holding his shoulder. I don't need to see that again. And honestly, I think that that had a lot to do with the Super Bowl loss too. Even though
tushies. Yes, I am. I'm a big fan. I go to Bucs house every weekend.
I don't know why I put that up there. I should. I don't know why I'm poking the bear. But Joe chimes in with the Eagles crowd taking over the stadium, and you know what? That was PhillySportsTrips.com. So if all those green jerseys you got, well, not all of them, but the majority of those green jerseys you saw down there at the Big Sombrero, I don't think it's called that anymore, but down there in Tampa, they were probably there. Some of them were, majority of them, or at least one of them was there part of the Philly Sports Trip down to Tampa. Don't forget, these guys have it locked in. Their next trip's coming up here in a couple of weeks, but make sure you head over to PhillySportsTrips.com and check out all they have to offer.
So real fast, speaking of the Eagles takeover, so Barstool's filmed, where they put like the big Bucs flag over the one half of the side of the stadium. Well, they were trying to cover the one side like a big blanket, and the Eagles fans were pushing down on it because they wouldn't get covered. They said, "No, we're taking this bad boy over. This is an Eagles town now." Yeah. He pretty much informed of it. Oh man, that was great.
Well, it's the spring training home of the Phillies. I mean, we kind of do have something down there. We have at stake there. Austin, I'm going to go around the room. I want to get your overall summary of this game. Give me your overall take, concerns, something that you're feeling good about, and basically what you feel about tonight.
Yeah, what we saw was just the running game taking solid effect of securing another win, and I like the way the running game has been progressing. The passing offense will come along. It showed some flashes of being really good tonight, but it's a long process. It's an 18-week season. We're 3 weeks in. Let's keep rocking and rolling, man.
Yeah, Pat.
My takeaway, I want to go with defense. Again, this is a defense that Baker Mayfield has never seen before. Again, you go from playing a sloppy Bears team, feeling all good about yourself, and you see an Eagles team with that defense, and again, struggled moving the rock a little bit. And then when you got into the red zone, we talked about Jalen Hurts having some struggles. He has some struggles as well. I mean, this is a team that was down by 11. I mean, only put 3 points on the board until that last drive in the fourth quarter that they want up putting together. Really couldn't find the red zone. So again, I got to give this defense. You had a pick tonight. You had a safety. They were making things happen. That front four, and like I said, you look for hungry dogs. Look no further than the Georgia Bulldogs, making that slogan come to reality.
My take on the night was it's again a positive thing when you can go on the road on Monday Night Football anywhere in the National Football League and come out with a very good win. Is it a perfect win? No. Is there such a thing? No. Are we still kind of programmed to what the season was like last year? Yeah, probably. And we talked about that last week that we can't be thinking that way. Did he play better, Jalen Hurts? Absolutely. Was the offensive play calling better? I'm going to say yeah, marginally was better, and it will continue to get better. The defense definitely is my standout as well. I'm really impressed with what this defense has been able to do with some of the personnel that I didn't think could do it so far. So I'm going to give kudos to whoever brought those people here. I'm not going to mention any names, but so far so good with the defense. The other thing is obviously now that we're moving now next week we got the Commanders at home, NFC East, a 1 p.m. Sunday game. Mark the calendars, stop the presses. We got an afternoon early Sunday game. One of only 3, gentlemen, in the entire 2023 NFL Eagles season.
Playing when the sun's up? What happened?
Yep. So all you vampires out there, take note, all right? You're going to be able to watch the game next week. DVR it or TiVo it, whatever you get.
Yes.
But
just hide away in your cave and watch Red Zone.
But geez, yeah. So 1 o'clock starts. So yeah, mark your calendars, everybody. 1 p.m. For next Sunday against the Commanders. But I am concerned that as we run through the last of these preliminary rounds and we make our way towards the Dolphins and the Chiefs of the world, things might get a little bit more hairy. Hopefully they iron out some of ththese things. But 3-0 is 3-0. I'll take it any day of the week. Austin, parting shots, and where can we find you?
Hey, you can find me on the Attacking Third Thursday nights at 9 right here on EOP. You can also find me on Twitter at Austin_EOP.
Gobbler.
Well, before I go any further, I just want to sum this up for us. We had an Eagles team sweep the Mets team. We had an Eagles team that won tonight. And by the way, yesterday was the most embarrassing loss for the Cowboys. So I think we can all be pretty happy with what we just saw this past weekend. But to answer your question, yes, I am Pat from Ambler. You catch me on Twitter as _Pat from Ambler _EOP. You catch me doing Eagles postgame shows, Phillies postgame shows, PM in the AM. All across all the time. You can catch me on Attacking Third and the Steel Step podcast. I'm pretty much everywhere on EOP.
And I'm Matty B. You can catch me hosting the Talking Phillies Sports Matty B program, usually on Monday nights, but not tonight, obviously, because I was trumped by the Eagles game. That's all. I'll take that every week. I also co-host, along with Pat and Al and Mike, on the Fights Final and the Clear the Ice, respectively, as well. So you can see me all over EOP as well, articles and everything else. Pat, it's been a pleasure. We'll do this again real soon. Ladies and gentlemen, go Birds, and we will talk to you next week when we got you covered. Again, Eagles Commanders, 1 p.m. That's right, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time down there at Lincoln Financial Field. So we talk again. Go Birds.
Go Birds.